The theory of evolution, as presented by mainstream science, is a grand deception that fails under the weight of scrutiny when measured against the fundamental laws of nature, observable phenomena, and logical reasoning. Evolution, which purports that all life arose through random mutations and natural selection over millions of years, contradicts the principles of biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics. It has been perpetuated not through evidence, but through institutional indoctrination designed to suppress critical thinking and obscure the truth about humanity's origins and purpose. For anyone willing to look beyond the veil of propaganda, the flaws in the evolutionary narrative become glaringly obvious. The central premise of evolution is that life emerged from non-life through abiogenesis, a spontaneous event where inorganic chemicals supposedly combine to form the first living cell. This claim violates the fundamental principles of chemistry and biology. The law of biogenesis, established by Louis Pasteur, states that life only arises from pre-existing life. There is no empirical evidence to support the idea that life can emerge spontaneously from non-living matter. The complexity of even the simplest cell, with its intricate machinery, information systems, and interdependent processes, defies the probability of arising by chance. The formation of proteins, which are essential to life, is itself statistically impossible under the conditions proposed by evolution. Proteins require specific sequences of amino acids to function, and the odds of even a single functional protein forming randomly are astronomically small. This problem, often referred to as the protein folding problem, has never been resolved by evolutionary science. Even if a living cell could somehow arise spontaneously, the process of evolution through random mutations and natural selection cannot account for the diversity and complexity in life observed today. Mutations, which are random changes in genetic material, are overwhelmingly harmful or neutral. They do not create new information but degrade existing genetic codes. The concept that complex organisms can arise from the accumulation of random mutations is akin to claiming that a series of random errors in a computer program could produce entirely new and functional software. This violates the second law of thermodynamics, which states that systems tend toward disorder rather than increasing complexity. Evolution requires an increase in genetic information and complexity over time, yet no mechanism exists to explain how such information could be generated. Instead, what we observe in nature is the opposite, a loss of genetic information over generations, leading to genetic entropy. The fossil record, often cited as evidence for evolution, fails to support its claims. The absence of transitional forms, intermediate species that should exist if evolution were true, is a glaring omission. Darwin himself acknowledged this problem, expecting that future discoveries would fill in the gaps, yet more than a century later, the gaps remain. The so-called missing links are not missing at all, they simply do not exist. Fossils reveal abrupt appearances of fully formed species with no evidence of gradual transformation. This pattern, known as the Cambrian explosion, directly contradicts the gradualism required by evolutionary theory. Additionally, the fossilization process is exceedingly rare and requires rapid burial under specific conditions, often pointing to catastrophic events rather than slow and gradual changes over millions of years. Mathematics further dismantles the evolutionary narrative. The sheer improbability of assembling even a single functional protein, let alone an entire organism, within the timeframe proposed by evolution is mathematically impossible. The odds of random mutations producing the vast array of functional structures, systems, and behaviors observed in living organisms are so low as to be indistinguishable from zero. Evolutionary theory relies on vast stretches of time to make these improbabilities seem plausible, yet time cannot overcome the insurmountable statistical barriers. The concept of deep time itself, on which evolution depends, is an unverified assumption based on radiometric dating methods that are riddled with inconsistencies and assumptions about initial conditions. Observable evidence in nature consistently points to design rather than random chance. The intricate interdependence of biological systems, from the symbiotic relationships between species to the irreducible complexity of cellular machinery, cannot be explained by gradual, step-by-step processes. Irreducible complexity refers to systems that require all parts to be present and functional simultaneously. Removing or altering one component renders the entire system inoperative. Examples include the bacterial flagellum, the eye, and the blood clotting cascade. These systems could not have evolved incrementally because intermediate stages would provide no functional advantage. This points unequivocally to intelligent design, not random mutation. The very premise of natural selection, a cornerstone of evolutionary theory, is often misunderstood and misrepresented. Natural selection can only act on existing traits. It cannot create new information or drive the emergence of new species. It is a conservative process that preserves advantageous traits within a population, not a creative force that generates complexity. The diversity of life observed today is better explained by variation within created kinds, where genetic potential allows for adaptation and speciation within limits. This aligns with the observable limits of variation in breeding experiments, where organisms can only produce offspring within their kind. No amount of breeding has ever resulted in one kind transforming into another, consistent with the laws of genetics established by Gregor Mendel. The suppression of alternative explanations and evidence further exposes the evolutionary narrative as a tool of control rather than truth. The promotion of evolution serves to disconnect humanity from its origins and purpose, reducing life to a meaningless series of random events. By fostering a worldview that denies design and purpose, the theory of evolution undermines the idea of accountability and morality, making it easier to manipulate and control societies. Institutions that promote evolution actively suppress dissenting voices, discrediting scientists and researchers who question the narrative, even when their arguments are based on solid evidence and reasoning. This monopolization of education and science ensures that evolution remains the only accepted explanation for the diversity of life, despite its many flaws. In conclusion, the theory of evolution is a flawed and unsubstantiated narrative that collapses under the weight of natural laws, logical reasoning, and observable evidence. It contradicts the principles of biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics, relying instead on speculative assumptions and unproven mechanisms. The complexity, diversity, and interdependence of life point unmistakably to design rather than random chance. Evolution is not a scientific fact, but a philosophical construct designed to obscure the truth about humanity's origins and purpose. To reject evolution is not to reject science, but to embrace a deeper, more accurate understanding of the natural world and humanity's place within it.